Now we're going to talk about something called masking. If you're following along, I'm in 05_masking.fla in the Chapter 8 folder in the Exercise Files folder. Using masks in Flash, you can hide or reveal certain parts of layers. Let's take a look at how that works. In this file, there's one layer called bitmap that has a simple bitmap image on it. The image has the mirror of a car and a background. Let's say we just wanted to use the mirror in some element of an animation. One way to isolate the mirror is to use masks. Let's create a new layer by clicking the Insert Layer button at the bottom of the timeline. We'll name the new layer Mask. Now let's lock the bitmap layer. To make a mask, you need to have two separate layers. One layer for the actual mask and one layer for the content that's going to be masked. The layer that acts as the mask is always placed above the layer that is going to be masked. The graphic you draw on the mask layer will reveal content that's in the masked layer. So what we'll have to do in the mask layer to isolate the mirror is to draw a shape that's the same shape as the mirror. So on the masked layer, I'm going to select the pen tool, and then I'm going to sort of outline the mirror on the stage. So I'm going to click to create anchor points, and click and drag to create curved lines. And I'll make a simple outline of the mirror. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it's generally the same shape as the mirror, it'll work just fine. And make sure to complete the shape by clicking on the first anchor point you created when you see the circle by your pen cursor. Now once we have the outline created, we need to fill in the shape. When you're working with a mask, you need to use fills. In masks, strokes don't count, or they don't mask any content. So let's select the Paint Bucket tool, and then click inside of the outline that you just drew. And that will fill in the shape. So now we have a shape that's the same shape as the mirror, that's sort of covering up the mirror. The next step is to tell Flash that this layer is a mask, and the layer below it is going to be masked. There's a shorter way and a longer way to do this. I'm going to show you both. Let's start with the longer way. In order to tell Flash that the mask layer is a mask, we need to open up something called the Layer Properties window. To do that, double-click the layer icon on the left side of the mask layer. That's the icon that looks the same as the Insert Layer icon. It looks like a piece of paper that's folded up. So double-click that icon, and the Layer Properties window opens. The Layer Properties window allows you to change the name of a layer, show or lock, specify the type of layer, and modify a few other properties, which we won't talk about right now. So what we'll have to do is specify that the type of layer that the mask layer is a mask. So choose Mask in the Type area, and then click OK. Notice at the top of the screen that the mask layer's icon is changed to show the mask icon. Also notice that nothing on the stage was updated. That's because we have to tell Flash that the bitmap layer needs to be masked by the mask. So if you double-click the layer icon for the bitmap layer to open the Layer Properties window, you can change the type of layer for the bitmap to be masked. You may have noticed that when I set the type for the mask layer, masked was grayed out. In other words, it wasn't an option to choose. That's because you first need to set the mask layer, and then you set the layer that's going to be masked. So I'm going to choose Masked, and then click OK. Notice the bitmap layer indents and updates to show the masked icon. Notice on the stage, we still can't see the effect of the mask. Another thing about masks in Flash is in order to preview them without testing the movie, you have to lock all the mask and masked layers. So when you lock the mask layer, you can preview the mask in action. So that's how to create a mask the longer way. Let's back up a little bit to before where we set the properties of the mask layer. So the mask layer should be a normal layer, and so should the bitmap layer. Here's the fast way to create a mask. Right-click or Control-click on the mask layer, and choose Mask. Flash turns the layer that you selected into a mask. The layer below it turns into a masked layer, and Flash locks both layers for you. And there's a look at how to create a mask.